I've got 5:15. It's June 10th. We're in the Tom Baker Room of the City County Building. This will be the Board of City Commissioners' regular meeting. Prior to starting, though, if we can call Chaplain Crowley forward for invocation and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Bow your heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to come together as your people. Help us to act with character and to act with conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with kindness. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide the commissioners to be the leaders your people need, and help all here see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with them, and to respond with restraint, to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If we can call the meeting to order by calling roll, please.
Commissioner Risch?
Here.
Commissioner Zenker?
Here.
Commissioner Connolly?
Here.
Commissioner Cleary? Here. Mayor Schmitz?
Here. First item is public comment. It's restricted to the items on the consent agenda or regular agenda, excluding public hearing items, which we'll have hearing on anyway. So anyone who wishes to speak to an item, please come forward, state your name, sign in, and tell us the topic you're talking to, please. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Public comment period is now closed. Commissioners, what are your wishes with regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Zenker?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. With permission, I would like to move item G on the regular agenda to the top of the agenda. And, if that's all right with everyone, I know that Commissioner Connolly, a person who is here regarding that, can make it now, and so is that all right with everybody?
Sure.
Okay, so we'll move item G to A, and I'm going to let Commissioner Connolly, this is your agenda item, so.
Appreciate it, Mayor and Commissioners, and being courteous of Carl, the subcommittee chair's time. He has a prior engagement at 7, and this is just the best way to accommodate for that. We're, like the previous initiated measure, I'm the advocate on it, and working with different citizens and conversations that have spanned a number of years. This is a swing we're taking using the initiated measure process. We met with, per request from Jason, city administrator, and Gabe, city engineer, and we had a conversation, and they encouraged that we bring this to the table. And I'll just let Carl speak at this time, and then if you have any questions for either one of us, we can go.
Can you, for the public, so they, certainly the listening public, can we state the actual topic of item G, please?
Well,
just so we get it on the record.
yeah. The headline on the initiated measure, we're still going through the approval of the wording process, so we don't want to say this is exact yet because it may be subject to change here and there. But the title of it is an initiated of city ordinance amending the home rule charter to continue the half-cent use and gross receipts tax with the proceeds to be dedicated exclusively to projects related to arterial and collector streets within the Bismarck boundaries defined within.
I think that gets it on the record, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Carl.
Good evening, Mayor Schmitz, Commissioners. I appreciate your time. My name is Carl Young, and I am a long-term resident of Bismarck. I am the subcommittee chair for a local citizen-driven initiated measure that we submitted to the city attorney on May 22nd of this year. I was a member of the subcommittee for the public safety, public transit measure that was passed by citizens last year. Following our submission, I received a letter from the city attorney with wording shortfalls, and our subcommittee presented our second attempt on June 6th to work toward making sure the measure is worded in a way that achieves the intended goal and is consistent with the expectations of how it would appear as an amendment to the Home Rule Charter. I left copies of the latest version of our initiated measure petition proposal with city administrators and encourage them to share as part of your packet tonight. So the reason I stand before you tonight, Commissioner Connolly and I met with the city administrator, Jason, and city engineer, Gabe, on May 29th regarding the proposed initiated measure. And we are here based on encouragement from both of them. We have a citizen-initiated measure submitted and going through the process to circulate for petition signatures. We intend to get on the ballot regardless of what we share tonight. We will officially talk about the details once we are able, and that will happen after the language is approved for submission or for circulation. Two areas that we received from the engineer and the administrator that may be a benefit to the citizen came up in relation to language matching intent and the corridor map. And they need city commission permission to engage with our committee on these items. We are not asking for permission from us, we're asking the city commission to give them permission to interact with us on this topic. It's on the agenda out of courtesy, no more, no less. And this is a citizen's right to represent, and we are choosing to exercise that right. Any questions?
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor Tom, has there been any analysis of traffic patterns, any study of growth? We've got professionals at the city in planning and zoning and engineering. The streets that are listed, and I'm looking at them and saying, wait a minute, the city might change course within this 10-year time frame. We're talking about certainly $50 million, maybe $80 million of new tax revenues we're calling on to our citizens. I'd feel more comfortable if there was an intense analysis on where we might, or maybe not list the roads at all. If we want money for roads and funding, maybe we just allow the discretion to the city commission and our planning and zoning and engineering department.
At present, Commissioner, and Mayor Schmitz, Commissioner, we're not prepared to discuss the nuts and bolts of the measure until the language is finalized.
Commissioner Conley.
That's actually, it's a great question, Commissioner Risch, and that's why we're here, is with our discussion with Jason and Gabe, and that there's a little bit of an impasse with how we can go about communicating with one another with respect to each other and with respect to the citizen. It's an uncomfortable space because they don't feel it's appropriate to talk to the subcommittee unless the commission gives permission to have that discussion one way or another. So if you give that permission, we can vet some of those things. If that permission's not given, then we will continue. The subcommittee will continue to submit wording until it's approved, and they'll get the signatures. So it's really down to that. I mean, Is, to answer your question is that if you allow them to communicate, then the commission and the administration has more input into how this goes forward. If not, then we'll do the best we can with what we got and get it as right as possible.
Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Conley, but you've already established where these construction projects, well, 57th Street and whatnot, you've got a list of different stuff.
Yep, that's
On there.
all based on suggestion. When the wording's approved, then the map will be set at that time. But that's all open for input.
So I guess I have a couple of questions. And one, I'm trying to figure out what you're a subcommittee of, or if it's just the committee of your own.
It's just a committee, so.
Okay, so title, because that gives me concern as to, like, the city has not put this forth at this
Right.
point in time. And
This-
it's a city, so make sure we're referring to it properly if it is.
Yeah.
My follow-up question, and this, I think, drives to where one of my concerns is, and I hope that whatever is resolved, and if we decide as a commission to direct staff to be a part of this, that's fine, but in this initiative, you've got caps at $1 million, and then it would have to be protested out, understanding that there's almost no street repair that can be done for $1 million. That's a pretty restrictive little thing, and if it gets protested out, now we're sitting on $10 million, $20 million of tax, which gives me chills up my spine, because it brings back something that I don't wish to talk about, called the TIF district fund that's just pooling at the city and has caused more than enough heartburn in this city already. So, I mean, I think those are things that if this go, not opposed to funding streets, don't get me wrong, we have one out there that has a sunset on it. That's why this is maybe even being talked about. I'm not sure we shouldn't have a sunset again, because I'd like to have the opportunity for citizens to reconsider it. But those are my thoughts. I was around when that was passed. I was part of getting it passed. So,
Well, one, that's part of the reason why not to talk about the nuts and bolts, because terms start getting thrown out there and associations start getting made, which is not part of what this wording and trying to get approved of is. To throw out the term TIF as a term associated with this is not accurate anyway whatsoever. But also when it's the caps, the cap portion is a trip. It's special assessment on one side and half-cent sales tax on the other side of the trip. There's no cap to it. It just changes the avenue of the funding source for the particular corridor. But again, the wording's not set to where the subcommittee can go collect signatures. So the conversation would be so wide open that it just confuses people. And so to get it more accurate, like was mentioned in Carl's statement and things, is out of courtesy from the meeting. We do have a lot of very intelligent, well-educated staff, and they do have that internal knowledge to give guidance to wording to make sure it's not worded wrongly to where we have an unintended consequence. But I think this does have potential of representing citizens in a very good way, and talking with others do too. So even if the commission chooses not to let staff talk, we'll just go forward the best we can. This is part of the process that we have, being in a representative republic and exercising democracy. Even though I have a seat at this table as a city commissioner, I'm also a citizen, and we can use the initiated process in order to put opportunities forward. If it gets voted in, the voters have exercised their position in that process. If it gets voted down, same thing occurs, and we go forward with the next idea.
okay, I'm just voicing I've had an opportunity to read it, so voicing my concerns, and I do want to hear from Gabe for sure. And I also have an inquiry of city attorney as well. But do others have questions for Carl? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Gabe, if you wouldn't mind giving us your information, please?
So really, the point of this presentation would be to kind of do a recap of how we got the half-cent sales tax for arterial road reconstruction and construction in the first place, and then just a status update on where we are with that program currently. So how did we get here? The Infrastructure Task Force would have been the first thing. This was the commission initiated this process and then brought together members from the commission, members from the business community, members from the community at large, and then staff to participate in an analysis and a work group session to create long-term financial plans for roads, waters, streets, all the infrastructure. Had about 12 meetings over the course of this fall of 2016 to spring of 2017 timeframe. Really early that focus became apparent that it should focus on those arterial roadways. The rates for the water system and for the sewer system could be adjusted if need be for funding. So the Infrastructure Task Force, even though it has a really broad name, focused primarily on roadway information, looking at the potential funding mechanisms that would be used for that sort of work. The recommendations that this task force came with were two of them. One of them would have required a home rule charter amendment. The other was a policy decision for the commission. So the first one being capping the 25 mil property tax buy down that at that time was just tied to the mill levy, but with the mill increasing in its value and the sales tax being flat or even decreasing, the projections were showing that over the course of some period of time, the sales tax would be entirely cannibalized by the property tax buy down, and there would be no sales tax to use for any other purposes that the commission could elect. So that was one of the items. That one would take a home rule charter amendment. The second item, redirecting special assessment buy down to prioritize new arterial road construction, was a policy decision that would have been available for the commission. The commission heard both of those recommendations and really didn't act on those at that time. But that led into the next task force that was then established in the spring of 2017, which was the Special Assessment Task Force, which once again had some commission members, businesses, probably a larger community representation on this one as well, and then staff present at these meetings. This goal was looking at the special assessment process. If the Infrastructure Task Force said, please reallocate special assessment dollars, this was the task force to kind of look into that issue a little bit in greater detail. So as that task force came back with recommendations, this would have been the slew or 7 recommendations that the Special Assessment Task Force had. Many of those were items that were carried over from the Infrastructure Task Force. So they took many of those, modified them in some ways, but one of those being the additional sales tax for construction of expanded arterial roadways that were identified by the previous task force, as well as capping the sales tax mill property tax buy down. So they took those two task forces and then combined them, one with membership from both the Infrastructure Task Force as well as the Special Assessment Task Force, to really come to a joint recommendation that would then be put up to the commission. So the joint task force recommendation was really to cap the sales tax 25 mil property tax buy down at a 2019 level. So that's a fixed dollar amount is what was put to the voters, as well as levy a half-cent sales tax to sunset after 10 years to construct and reconstruct arterial roadways from a defined project list. So that was put on the ballot in November of 2018 and was passed by our community. So that half-cent sales tax for arterial road reconstruction and construction has to be listed on these roadways that are blue on this map. Sunsets after 10 years, so we'll see that expiring in the first quarter of 2029 is when they'll find our last collection. We generate about $10 million per year from this program. And so far, we have invested $67 million in sales tax through 2025 with our Century Avenue project. And that has been combined with $18.5 million in federal and state aid that has been applied to some of these projects as well. The projects that are yellow and now highlighted in red represent the projects that we have committed to or have constructed or in the process of constructing. I won't list them all here, but you can see it's a wide variety of roadways throughout all quadrants of our community here. But we are running out of blue roads that are even acceptable for us to use. So that is something that we'll have to keep track of. So I wanted to tabulate this for my own just understanding. So I took a little drone video. This is our South Washington Street roundabout at Burley Avenue. So as of the end of 2024, this program has constructed approximately 18 lane miles of concrete pavement. We have 22,000 tons of asphalt or hot mix on all of the projects, not just this one. We have 4 traffic signals as the traffic control device, and 4 roundabouts have been installed, including the one that we're looking at here. We have 66,000 square feet of sidewalks or trails, usually a trail on one side, sidewalk on the other, and 1,000 trees, over 1,000 trees. I'm going to put 1,000, but this is over 1,000, 1,081, something along those lines. So into the project program financials, this gets back to which projects we have actual final costs on, which ones are contracted, and which ones are just in the CIP. So everything except the Tyler Parkway project on the bottom of this list is either a final cost or a contracted cost, with Tyler Parkway being the one element that will be in our 2026-2030 CIP that you'll see as part of the budget proceedings coming up. But the rest of these are committed dollars. So what we have on the books so far is that 84 million programmed, but as I said before, that was $16 million less in what we've spent to date. As we look at the program financials, this is one of my favorite graphs. Every year I show it to you when we ask about what the next project should be. So this is the concept of showing what we've accrued in our revenue over the course of time. Is that gray bar the project costs, or that yellow bar that goes negative on this chart shows which projects, or it shows that we spent money in those years, with then that blue line representing the balance or the estimated balance as we get out into the future of what that program has. So as you can see in 2025, we're spending a significant sum of money, but also recouping and generating some. As we get into 26, same kind of story. 2027 and 2028, anticipated revenue will leave us with about $13 million is what we're projecting at this point in time with all the projects that we have programmed or under construction as a ending balance at this point in time, which could still be spent on the next project, whatever that might be, or could considered for whatever a change, I guess, could be here too. So just want to update you on what we've done so far, and if that helps with any of your discussion on what the next steps are, it would be staff's position that the process that we used previously to engage with all stakeholders throughout the community to see what do we like about this program, what's needed, what should we do next, worked well last time, and I guess we'd advise that something like that would be done in the future for the re-up of this program, or the re-envisioning of whatever this program may be in the future. So take any questions that you may have.
Anybody have questions for Gabe? Go ahead, Commissioner Zinker.
Gabe, real quick. So the 15 million that we got before we approve, or the citizens approve this half-cent sales tax, we would only be finishing up the second leg of 43rd now. Is that correct?
Mayor, Commissioners, Commissioner Zanker, it would be, we would probably be on the 43rd Avenue project from State Street to 26th Street. This would be the project that we would have taken on, and that would have taken every year of financial aid that we get from federal aid sources combined and try to make that thing work. So there would be no Ash Cooley Drive, there'd be no South Washington Street, there'd be no permanent paving on Tyler Parkway or 43rd Avenue. As well.
Correct. And that's what I really want to anchor about, is that this thing has been very, very proactive in a reactive scenario. I mean, I remember when I was elected, 43rd was all that was a 2-lane road, and pretty dangerous. And through this, we fast-tracked that project. In fact, we did it in COVID. It was one of the first projects that came out during COVID. I just don't understand why we want to change something that's working really well for us. I don't get that. Yes, you're always going to get complaints about, hey, the city commission doesn't listen. They don't do what we tell them, but we still have 74,000 people that we need to listen to. So if 40, 50 don't agree with it and we still approve it, it's not that we're not listening. It's just that we have to take into account the much bigger picture of what we're trying to do. I really thought that when we got to the second phase of this, that we would talk more about street utility fees and kind of bring it all together. When Gabe and I talked earlier last week or this week, it was, hey, we need to do this in a 2.0 fashion, right? We've talked about getting rid of special assessments, and I think there's a way to do that if we combine this and make it a permanent thing moving forward. I don't like the limitations. You're only looking at arterial streets and collector streets, and those definitions are different between what our internal staff has and what DOT would have, or even what federal would have. So, and a lot of times we have to play by that federal violin to make sure that we get those $15 million of funds. So, I would. Here's one thing. It's my portfolio. I wish somebody would have brought something up to me months ago if this was the communication. And two, I think it would have been a professional courtesy to ask staff and administration as to what we thought the vision would be for the future. I don't see this as a vision. I think this is just no disrespect, but it's a group of people who aren't happy with the certain ways certain things are done, and it's a handcuffing scenario in my opinion. So,
Commissioner Connolly.
This is not an effort to say that the current funding source is bad. It has served its purpose. It has done what it was voted in to be. It's sunsetting, and there are a lot of different dynamics that are all out on the table, that are all part of discussions. And with every meeting, with every interaction, with every committee, people are listening. And they're taking all of that information, they're taking their own experiences, they're taking what they read, they're taking it all into consideration. And with everything available, can we look at some of the things that we haven't found an answer for? Urban sprawl comes up as a topic in a lot of cases. As the cities expand, that means we got to get services further and further out, and it increases the cost on an entire community. That's where the boundaries within the initiated measure come up, is that a lot of those roads that are on the map from the current initiated measure will be included if this one passes in the measure going forward. It just adds the additional revenue source for the collector and arterial roadways within in order to remove that special assessment designation along those corridors and for keeping those costs down. When the Special Assessment Task Force met, I sat in on every single one of those meetings. And some of the impasses that came up is, do you look at square footage? Do you look at square footage of a lot? Do you look at linear square footage? And there was an impasse because the top number stayed the same. It's how you got to that equation to get to that top number. It changed. And there were consequences to some businesses at a higher amount, and there were consequences to some businesses at a lower amount. And they thought, well, this higher amount's a little unfair, so let's move this. So this went up and this went down. And there was fairness and unfairness in every alternative that they talked about. And during that 6-year period of time, it actually cycled around where we went through the same conversations a couple of times. I mean, you were in a lot of those, Mayor Schmitz, and there was a lot of difference when we're talking fee-for-service, residential and business. You're talking to the footprints that business has over special assessment or fee-for-service versus special assessments. It was a lot to overcome, and then we also needed state legislation to get that help. The state, 3 swings at it, and this last round, it actually went backwards to the conversation instead of forward. So something like this, most businesses are along arterials and collector corridors. And with this going forward, we just had the discussion on Ottawa Street. The amount of cost of doing businesses puts business in a very difficult place. When you're talking 6 figures of special assessments, that's hard for a business. It's competitive enough out there. Government shouldn't be in a position of making it hard for business to go forward. So do we take a swing at this and maybe ease that? if most of those corridors for businesses are off the table, I mean, East Maine's contested out twice, and that because of the amount. East Main is getting bad. It needs a rehab, but those businesses down there cannot absorb a huge special assessment. And I've been told that by a lot of them. And then with all of the remaining streets where, like the residential area, when the Special Assessment Task Force, they first started out talking about sidewalk to sidewalk and what would that look like. Well, the fee-for-service amount started getting too high to where people weren't comfortable with it. So they reduced it down to curb to curb. Well, if you had the collector and arterial roadways taken care of under one source, can you look at a fee-for-service that we can discuss at a table like this? And does that drive that fee-for-service down low enough to where we can talk about sidewalk to sidewalk again versus curb to curb? And that's one of the reasons for having these discussions and taking the swings, is it's not that people didn't go to each individual person and have the meetings. They've been listening all along. And there are projects to where one and done public input meetings, they were told it was public input and it came across like public information. Like it's just checking a box and the citizens are going to do what the citizen, or the city's going to do what the city's going to do. Well, this is a swing at addressing that. There are a lot of citizens that say things that aren't helpful. Well, if everybody has skin in the game, so to speak, and they're talking to one another as far as what the city grows into, maybe it turns into some things, some special things to where we grow in a good way. It's a ripple on how we change our processes, but we still get the things done. We still get the services and provide the services, and we do the projects that we've always been doing.
Go ahead, Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Conley, don't you agree the 2016 to 2018 community involvement process is far superior than just 6 people putting something on the ballot?
This is way more than 6 people.
Well, whatever you got. I wasn't aware of it. First I saw it was on the agenda.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a process out there, community outreach and whatnot on this big a thing. 2016 to 2018, there was a real process so you could actually participate. Then it was passed, and it was a 10-year thing. Okay, it's going to expire in 10 years. Well, we know how that goes. Here already, we want to extend it for another 10 years. And I'm with the mayor. If we're going to do it, we probably shouldn't put a sunset on. And I'm with Commissioner Zinker here. I don't want a bunch of strings attached. You mentioned Ottawa Street. That's a tremendous burden on the people living on Ottawa Street. Maybe we could just enact this half-cent sales tax and deal with some places like that as well to reduce some of the special assessments.
And I guess if that street's chosen to be part of the map, what if the citizens were to pass this, wouldn't that accomplish that ultimate end that you just explained? That would be the intent, is getting there. And as far as it, we've had people within the city talking about it at planning and zoning. We've had people talk about it at Board of Adjustment meetings. We've had it at city commission meetings to where when the sunset arises, they're going to look at readdressing, whether in the same form or maybe a minor change, what can this do going into the future? It's been out there. It's been talked about. It's been part of the process the whole time. People have been listening. And we're trying to, one thing it doesn't do, the current one, it doesn't address things that like taking a swing at urban sprawl. And that's something that is written into this measure. Is do we take a swing at urban sprawl and try to control some of those costs that really, really challenge just about every city in the country?
So I'm not sure who I would want to ask this question to, but because it's what has been put before us, that's why I'm addressing it. So coming back to the, as currently drafted, the $1 million trigger, that has to then go through some process. The question I have is, how workable is that even for engineering? Maybe, Gabe, can you address that? I'm trying to, like, so we can give guidance to staff if we're going to do that.
Mayor and Commissioners, Mayor Schmitz, I think one of the challenges about this whole conversation is that we aren't able to talk about the things that are on this piece of paper that then we're now having conversations about. So I think many in the public are probably confused about what we're even discussing. I'd add that as a preamble to this. The concept of requiring a public vote on whether or not $1 million is spent on a roadway improvement, I guess if that's the language that we're talking about, then that would present challenges, obviously, from our ability to program projects
Let
and having
me-
the assurance that that project will in fact happen. So,
Let me interrupt. That provision on it does not require a vote. That's just based on the cost trip or the repairs. So East Century Corridor last year, was it 3 or 4 districts? Each of them tripped over $1 million. The protests were all 19 to 22% or whatnot. Those repairs were specially assessed to the benefiting, what we tab benefiting properties. And that, in that case, by just the fact that it tripped the $1 million, then that's when this half cent would kick in. That provision does not go to a vote of the people.
So that.
I think there's a lot of
that-
confusion,
that
I'd say, in the
probably-
language that we
so-
have then.
So that probably drives the question back to City Attorney Mees, like, how much work needs to be done to get this to something that is even administratively possible?
Well, Mayor, Commission, I'm sorry, is this not close enough?
No.
So, according to the ordinances, the city attorney can only pass on the form of the petition or the initiation. And so I just received this on Friday when I was out, so I haven't had a chance to dive into it, but I was just listening to what Commissioner Connolly said, and there are some drafting errors that contradict what Commissioner Connolly said, just from my brief reading. So I can't really, because I'm supposed to remain unbiased, I can't comment on the content of the initiation. So I would just encourage the committee to work with staff to make this enforceable. I just think there's some errors in here that make it unenforceable at the moment.
So
Commissioner Conley?
we don't, per Carl's testimony in the subcommittee, we don't have to work with staff or anything, but when we're talking of trying to put a good, something forward for the benefit of the citizen, whether they agree to it in a vote as we communicate into the next election next year, trying to come up with the best product so that we can, that helps everybody with the understanding, because like we know with any project, any buildup, the Tyler Parkway conversation was on the conversation piece since 1996. There's a lot that goes in, and the dynamics and the moving parts, it's a lot. So if you don't approve that we can interact, we just understand where we all sit. If you do approve, and it's not that they're telling us what the wording should be, we can even bring back to the commission if $1 million is not a practical, because that would be every project out there, then let's talk about the number a little bit. Some of those things, if, say, even the parameters of the box, instead of River Road, is it more practical in addressing sprawl, moving that parameter to Tyler Parkway? Those things can be discussed, but having something to where we're being as fair to the citizen in the wording as we can as we move this initiated measure process forward. Interaction with staff, they have that internal knowledge, they have that expertise. If we're able to talk, putting it out there. We're not asking the commission to put it on the ballot. We're not asking the commission to do any work. We're not asking them to promote it. We're not asking them to, they can be against it. That's fine. We're going to address that side of it with the voters. What we're saying is this might be the best benefit to the citizen if you do allow us to talk. But if you don't, that's okay.
Okay, well, it's obviously up to the commission. My one concern I have, and I have to say this, is, you are a sitting city commissioner, and so the struggle I'm having is looking like it's coming from the city commission, even if it isn't. And that's kind of a struggle I have, and that would have been, as Commissioner Zinker has mentioned, I think it's not a topic that we didn't want to address at some point in time. It would have been wonderful if we could have kind of guided this ship a little bit, but I leave it up to the commissioners is what we want to do. Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, is it too late for us to guide this ship? Is it too late for the commission to develop a plan and put it on the ballot as well?
It is not, but do we want multiple sales tax in multiple elections?
Well, if we have one that works better, I don't know. Well, it's not ideal, certainly.
No, it is not. Would not be prohibited. And I mean, as Commissioner Zinker admitted, I would like to even be more broad thinking and try to attack the special assessments for repairs and maintenance on all roads, which we could maybe get there. But this won't get there. It won't even get close, because I know what the numbers are.
Mayor,
Commissioner
okay.
Cleary, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I guess the thing I'm struggling with, maybe your point has already been made, but it's set up as a citizen initiative. And so as much as it makes sense that you would inquire staff and need assistance in some ways to make sure that it's like written correctly and makes sense and is enforceable, it still has to remain a citizen initiative. If to Commissioner Risch's point, if the city is also going to be trying to do something so that this doesn't sunset and then we're left with nothing, then do we have two competing things going on? But then also, like, we all seem to have our own concerns or issues with what's currently laid out, which obviously has plenty of potential to change and be manipulated and stuff because it's still so early. But with staff being involved, it doesn't necessarily mean that the city and their, like, whether it's staff opinion or commissioner's opinion, is going to actually guide the ship to what we want it to be, because it still is citizen driven at the end of the day, I guess is what I'm struggling with. But I mean, does that mean that they shouldn't be able to ask staff for assistance? I mean, I don't think so, but I guess I don't know where that leaves us, or like what we're exactly trying to decide tonight as far as this goes.
Commissioner Connolly.
Well, I wouldn't use the term manipulate the wording. Work on the wording, I would say, but manipulation is not a good word. But the map, I mean, Gabe works with the map and our staff work with the map all the time. Part of the reason in the list is question mark behind things. Is this appropriate to call this a collector? Is it appropriate to call it a collector roadway? What that definition is and that they have the internal knowledge. There are people with expertise in that we've talked to. There are people that everybody has a different perspective. So the key on the map is that once it's set at a transparency, basically any of the projects that could go on in the future, whether it's a rehab or reconstruction, and that the citizens know exactly with what this funding source that they passed is supposed to be applied to. There was even some things that the current one paid for that wasn't part of that initiated measure, like certain turn lanes and things. But the other side of it, the citizen-driven portion, once the wording's improved, the map's set, and the wording's set at that point, the subcommittee and other people that said that they would go out and collect signatures, they will do the work. It takes 1,466 signatures to get it on the ballot. It's not an easy feat. A person would have to turn in arguably 2,000 to 2,500 signatures, because there's always people that they'll sign it and they're from people outside of the jurisdiction and things. It's citizens going to citizens and talking about, do you think this makes sense or does it not? And you let the voters decide. The commission actually has it pretty easy in the sense that any commission could just say, well, we've worked on this, we have a subcommittee, a vote of 5 people, 3 being the majority, can put it on a ballot and leave it up to the citizens to decide too. I'm a door knocker. I know a lot of people that are door knockers. That interaction has a lot of citizens appreciate the fact that they like that communication from people. So it doesn't say one side's wrong or the other. It just says it's a different approach to exercising what we call our democracy, exercising democracy. So, but they're all great questions. I mean, this is part of civil discourse, so where hopefully we get to good answers. This is a chance we're taking.
Any thoughts, commissioners?
One last thing. I don't stand to gain from this at all. It's just an idea, but if you don't think I should vote on this, I'm comfortable with that too.
Well, I don't have a motion yet, so. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Mayor, Commissioner, I do feel we're a little pigeonholed a little bit here. If we want this to be workable in the future, we almost need to approve it. So, I just don't know. I don't know what we're trying to accomplish. That's the hard thing. I just don't.
Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I don't have a problem with the staff advising this committee to get it right, but I'd much prefer that we use the same process that we used for the 2018 vote, where it was more involving, more input from the community, more open, transparent process. The first I saw this was on Thursday when it showed up online. First I heard of it. So the idea that there'd been all kinds of input, I didn't see it. So I just rather, I don't have a problem with staff giving some advice, but like you said, Mr. Mayor, it looks almost like it's a city commission-driven thing, and it's not. And
I mean, we could do that on our own, certainly. But again, how do we want competing measures, or do we want to be more bold? I mean,
Yeah, and I think we need to be more bold. Let's go big or go home. I don't think we accomplished what we need to accomplish with this. I think we got to really dive into that, and I think it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure the task force was reconvened, but nothing really ever happened with it.
it's been sitting idle because.
Yeah, because of this. So maybe it's that, here's the,
I mean, I know there's people who have asked me if
Right.
I'd reinstitute it.
here's the button, push it to go forward, and we figure it out. I just don't want to confuse the citizens. That's my biggest concern,
Yep.
because the half cent has been so good for us. We've invested all that money right back in our community. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, and that wouldn't change. If the voters approved of a half cent, it's still going to be reinvested into the community for roadways, just like it has been. It's just a little different context.
Question I have for whoever it needs to be to, and maybe you can't answer this, so if city staff is involved and helps with ideas and how we can get that, and we can get more bold with this to try to address even special assessments. I mean, I'm more inclined to be supportive of asking our staff to do that than not. And I don't know if I'm asking the question that's even legitimate or where you're at. I also have, if we don't sunset it and we put borders around the community, we have just tied the hands of all future commissions forever. And the community's going to grow. Let's face it, we're growing 1,000 residents a year. They got to go someplace.
That's
Commissioner.
that's not accurate. We haven't tied it because the same thing with any initiated measure, the process on anything, just like our ordinance, is if people put in the work, things can be changed. If people go out and collect signatures, they can amend this, just like they can amend anything in the Home Rule Charter. Is that everything, being in a republic, the citizens, the city commissions, the state, they're always in flux of change. Nobody's handcuffed. They can go out and change things.
But there is, I realize there can always be a home rule charter amendment ordinance, but you set something out there, it's always a bigger leap. It's always a bigger leap. So I'm just like, that would be my comments. If there's openness to looking bigger, bolder, let's try to really address some of the issues that I know citizens are concerned with when it comes to special assessments, when their streets in front of their house are repaired. Like, now I think we're talking about some things. Commissioner Clary.
I mean, maybe at this point, we direct staff to have those conversations and then come back to us. And like, if we get to a point where we are getting that out of those meetings, then the city stays involved in this measure. And if we aren't, and their concept is something different than what we're talking about, then at a certain point, that staff involvement stops. I mean, I don't think it has to be like a direction, like staff be involved, and then that doesn't end. It could be like, let's direct staff to meet with them, like once about this topic, see if we can get everybody on the same page, see if they can assist. Maybe it's more than once, but like, it can be like, have staff assist, see if we can get everybody on the same page. And then whether it's Gabe or whoever else comes back to us and lets us know, have we made progress in the direction that the city wants and that we want, or do we want to let this just be fully citizen-driven and staff steps away? I mean, I think we can let them attempt to help and see where it gets us, and then come back to it. Couldn't we?
Okay. And then I would want Commissioner Zinker to be certainly involved because it's your portfolio.
I can do that.
So I guess I will make a motion to request that staff, whether that's Gabe or someone in engineering, to connect with the committee and see if they can get onto the same page about some of the process that we're wanting moving forward, and then to report back after discussions are had and they've resubmitted to the city attorney.
You want to include administration on that?
Yes, engineering, administration, and then
Second.
Legal as needed.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Everybody understand the motion?
Along with me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. We have a Commissioner Conley, sorry.
Not to put Julie in difficulty in things, because is that workable? Because you have some guardrails by which you have to follow, and we want to make sure that's respected, because as people use this process there's some that are coming across that are awful initiated measures. There's some that are good, and there's a lot that are all the way in between. We want to make sure that we're at least telling citizens that there's a right and a wrong way to go about this, even though it's a struggle every time. So don't want to put you in a difficult spot with that motion. Is that workable for you?
Well, as I understood it, Commissioner, the motion as currently stated would be legal as needed.
Yes.
I would just, my only concern is that under the ordinance, I'm supposed to review this and report back to the commission within 10 working days. I can do that. At that point, I'm going to probably step back because I don't want to be involved in the content of it.
Sure, that's
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Rish?
Yes.
Commissioner Zenker?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. All right, that disposes of item 3G. Back to the beginning. Item A, consider request to receive Dakota West Arts Council 2024 annual report.
All right. Hello, my name is Jason Thomes. I am the Executive Director of the Dakota West Arts Council. And each year we send a report in to the city to talk about what we've done with funds that we've received from the city to give back into the community to support the arts, to support arts communities. We have created a brochure, and I was wondering if it's okay if we bring a brochure to each of you?
Sure.
Okay. There we go. Just a small bit of background, because I'm new in this position. I've only lived in Bismarck this is my 5th year, and this is the end of my first year as the Executive Director of Dakota West Arts Council. We started here in Bismarck in 1980, so we're about to get to our 45th year of supporting arts organizations in the community. Oops, I don't know how to, there, oops. Oh, I see, this is, all right, it's just this way. So when we got into, COVID was a problem for all the arts organizations, and one of the reasons was that we couldn't bring folks together to perform, or you often couldn't bring folks together to be in performing spaces, and it resulted in a lot of slowdown. Luckily, there was a lot of federal support, and the support we received from the city and even North Dakota Council on the Arts, which helped us to kind of maintain for a while. I think we've recovered from that COVID time, and we've kind of, this last year, landed in a time where we had some funds available, we had a lot of people interested in the arts, and so we came up with a variety of focuses for this year. We had an enhanced focus on the amplification and promotion of arts events in our community. There's a lot of arts organizations, arts professionals, and since I've been here for the last 5 years, I moved here from the New York City area. Sometimes it was hard to figure out what was actually happening in our community, and so that was one of the things I really wanted to make sure. We updated our website to include member profile pages with images, videos, and links connecting the community to the arts organizations and arts professionals. We started a DWAC Community Arts Calendar on our website. And you just received the DWAC Summer Arts Calendar in print. This was made possible by a $5,000 grant we received from the Leach Foundation to support community arts, a calendar. And a return of the sub-granting program, which DWAC had done for many, many years, but kind of had to put on pause during the couple of years after COVID. We restarted that this year. And with the goal of setting aside $30,000 from the money that the city provides to us to be able to give back to arts organizations in the community. And we're working to build partnerships and collaborations between our members and other local organizations. For me, one of the most important things is to build collaboration, partnerships, both in the arts and non-arts, and also to find ways to get more and more free arts experiences to the people in our community. And so that's kind of been my personal goal for Dakota West Arts Council, is to promote more and to get more free events. If you look at the summer arts calendar, if you counted up everything that's on there, there's about 120 events that are happening in June to August. And I've already had many people contact me and say, oh, well, I wish I could have gotten mine on there. So there's hundreds of events that are happening in our community, and it's just really hard to get people to know what exactly is going on. In the last year, we've increased our membership by about 3 times. Our membership now includes nearly every arts organization in Bismarck, and even after I created this, another arts organization signed up for membership. Our increased activity on social media amplifies sharing posts from our member organizations and has led to more organizations reaching out. We are members of the Downtowners, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Chamber EDC. So we really want to be a part of the wider community, even while we're supporting the arts organizations. This is the list of the arts organizations that are currently members of the Dakota West Arts Council. Avora, Telestudios, Sacred Pipe Resource Center, Northern Lights Chorus, West River Wind Community Band, Gallery 522, Bismarck Downtown Artists Cooperative, Sleepy Hollow Theater and Art Park, Bismarck Art and Gallery Association, University of Mary, Bismarck Mandan Civic Chorus, Bismarck Mandan Symphony, Bismarck State College, Dakota Pro Musica, Dakota Stage, Missouri Valley Chamber Orchestra, Northern Plains Dance, the Capitol Gallery, Theo Art School, Central Dakota Children's Choir, Laughing Sun Brewery, because they are now becoming a pretty major host of live music, and then Flickertail Woodcarvers. That's a lot of folks. That's a lot of people who interact in our community, and it's across a wide spectrum of the arts. In the past year, we've participated with the city in a few different things. The city has been working on an arts and culture plan. I know that's going to be coming to you in a meeting or two from now. And so we sat on the committee and talked with and helped share our expertise. We were a fiscal sponsor for a grant that the city of Bismarck applied for this last year on an asphalt grant. And we were invited to be on a panel for the Mandan Convention and Bismarck Mandan Convention and Visitors Bureau. And there's a follow-up meeting coming for that. The summer arts calendar, we have some for anyone who's in the audience also, and you can find this online. This took a lot of work, but our plan is to keep this going, and we're actually wanting to come out with a fall arts calendar, which will include all of our arts organizations and everything that's happening over the next year. We're trying to find more and better ways to connect this to the Convention and Visitors Bureau or to a variety of things. Is there a way for us to get the Bell or the Event Center on our lists and things like that? Those are all things that we're looking. We want to become the home of where people would go to find out what's happening in the arts in a more central way. And we have this great design. This brochure was designed by our AmeriCorps volunteer that we have, Alex Thomes. And Alex has been working over this year. They're currently in graduate school to get a MFA in visual art, but they also have been doing all of our graphic design this year. So we've been working with AmeriCorps volunteer, which is really vital to help us with a small budget to do everything we possibly can. Last couple things. We have been partnering for many years now with Bismarck Parks and Recreation to offer a summer song series. Typically, there's been 3, kind of the last Thursday of each month. This year, we added a 4th in May because, well, I just thought I'd rather sit outside in May than I would in July. So, and it was a fabulous concert we had in the end of May there. We have another one coming up in June, July, and then the middle of August, right before school starts. We had 160 folks show up to Sibley Park for the first one. I think there's expectations that could be 400 or 500 coming up for June. So that's going to be exciting. Laughing Sun comes out and sells beer there. We have an alcohol permit for them to do that. This is one of our most favorite things. And this actually starts tomorrow in Custer Park, and that is our kids' summer stage. We have every summer 10 events free to the community that involve music, some type of performing arts, someone giving a performance singing, or tomorrow is Northern Plains Dance. And then we also, this year, because of our AmeriCorps worker, we're adding in an art and craft experience at the end of that. So there's 3 half-hour blocks every Wednesday that are free activities for kids and families that go out throughout the entire season. And what I heard is Custer Park might be a little bit more open for parking than it was a couple of weeks ago. So we're excited about that. We were a little nervous for a little while. And then going into 25, 26, as I mentioned, we're hoping to create a big arts calendar for the whole fall and spring. We'd like to continue our arts granting program with the goal. We're in a tricky time when it comes to arts funding on the federal level and a variety of things. And so what we can do for our community is going to be really important. What I'm trying to encourage everyone who applies for a grant from Dakota West Arts Council for next year to do is find a way to collaborate, find a way to make it inexpensive or free, whatever the project is they're applying for, so that we have much more coverage across our community, outside, inside, in the winter, in the summer. And I think that's really exciting. So sorry, I guess that was the next slide. And this is just a picture I wanted to share with you of one of the grants that we offered this year. This is to Bismarck Symphony, when they had, I believe it was the 4th graders from all public schools come in. They filled the entire bell with 4th graders, and they gave 2 different performances of their March concert. So those kids had an amazing opportunity. The Civic Chorus also does that, I think, for the 3rd graders, and it's Opera Day, and they have 2 performances in the bell, and all the kids get to come for free. So really, really excellent. Oops, and I guess that might be the end. So, are there any questions that anyone might have?
Any questions? Thank you. Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, Dr. Thoms, I just want to thank you and what you do to make our community a better place to live and work.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate all you do.
I appreciate the time, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for sharing this, and I'm happy to work with the city anytime I can to bring more arts and more opportunities to our community.
Thank you, sir. Moving to item 3B, consider request to receive report from Bismarck Mandan Chamber EDC related to the economic development services provided. Go ahead, Brenda.
Good evening. You think I can wing it? I'm going to apologize for my voice. I've been doing that for 4 weeks, and I don't know what it is. I'm not ill, but I just have this lovely spring laryngitis. So I apologize. I'm Brenda Nagel, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you on behalf of the Bismarck Mandan Chamber EDC. Thank you for allowing myself to come and tell you a little bit about what we are up to. If I told you all of the things we're doing, I'd be here for the next 3 hours, and Commissioner Zanker would be really clicking on his pen, and we wouldn't want that to happen, would we? You do, yes. All right. So I'm going to get right into some of the workforce development sorts of efforts that we have been working on, because as you know, building a community in which our young people want to come to and want to stay in and set down roots and be a part of the community in which we all enjoy living in. We have to spend some time really connecting with those people and helping them see what's possible, help them imagine themselves living in the city of Bismarck. And so workforce development has been a huge effort on our part as the work that we've been doing on behalf of the city of Bismarck. Our internship network is certainly something that we've gotten an awful lot of mileage off of. It doesn't really cost us an awful lot of money to do. It just takes an awful lot of time to make connections. And so what we've done is reached out to as many of our members as we possibly can that we know that have interns through the summer. And many of those interns that are coming to the community are actually coming from outside of the state of North Dakota. Some are UMary BSc students, others are NDSU, UND, Minot State, Dickinson State students, but many and most of them are coming from outside of the state. Those are really the young people that we want to really sink our claws into, and we want to help them understand what kind of a community we've got. And so what we've done, this is the second summer, we've taken an approach of inviting them via their employer where they're doing their internship at. We invite them to 3 events throughout the summer, because we know that these young people come to the community in which they do their internship, and they probably meet some people, other interns, at their place of employment. But then they probably go out to eat somewhere, and they go back to their place that they're staying, and they don't really connect with other people in other kinds of jobs. So if you've got engineers and you've got accountants or other folks, they're not really connecting with other interns. And so this internship network is an opportunity to connect these young people together, so together they can figure out, I really want to walk across the stage when I graduate, and I want to come back to Bismarck, and I want to get a job at the place that had me as an intern, because I really fell in love with the community. And so our internship network, our first event actually kicks off for the summer this week. We'll be at 24/7 Cornhole. We try to hold events in Mandan and Bismarck so that they have an opportunity to see both sides of the river. When we talked to the young folks, the interns, 94% felt that they learned more and became more connected with the community through these types of events. They've now met some connections that they're staying in contact with. We too are staying in connection with them, helping them understand what options are out there for them to continue to work here. So our 2025 season kickoff is scheduled for June 11th, and we are expecting close to 80-some people, young people, at that event. We also kicked off, which I know you're all very well aware of, the Welcome Initiative, and thank you to Mayor Schmitz and the First Lady, Janelle, really helped to kick that off with us at the Chamber EDC. We held a press conference in May, which seems like a long time ago, but it was just a few weeks ago, and it really encouraged people in our community to open up their eyes to communicating and be accepting of people that they don't know. We are a friendly community as long as we know you. But if we don't really know you, we're not really apt to invite you over to dinner or to a neighborhood barbecue or to meet for a cup of coffee. And so the Welcome Initiative really was kicked off, again, with both mayors actually were in attendance from Mandan and Bismarck here. And it's an opportunity to showcase our community and to really connect with those people who don't feel connected to what is happening in Bismarck. And so lots of things are happening with that. We've launched a Facebook page where we can engage with folks, and we've had nearly 20,000 people who are engaging with that. We have and also a website where they can go online. They can see different activities that they can participate in, whether it's the arts, it's music, and it's other things. They can see what those opportunities are. Again, we want to help people understand what it's like to be a part of the community and help them envision where they fit in. So other workforce programs that we are working on right now, the Educator Experience, our workforce coordinator summer, is working with 24 educators in our community. And what we do is we take those teachers and we take them to various businesses around the community and help them understand what the job openings are and what we need to do to connect our young kids to those particular job opportunities. Our teachers are phenomenal. We have an unbelievably fantastic school system, but we have to continue to educate the teachers so that they know what sorts of things are open and available, so that as they're working with the young students and even the high school students, that they can have those conversations. They can share, my experience when I went to the mine was this. My experience when I went to this particular business was this. Here's how we can help you understand what classes you should take in order to perhaps pursue that type of position or what kind of school you want to go to. We engage them in firms in engineering, architecture, healthcare, media and communications, criminal justice, and even more. And so again, we're trying to just make sure that we're connecting with all of the different folks who have access to our young folks. And then, of course, Leadership Bismarck Mandan is a program that's been in the community for well over 30 years. It started as a chamber initiative, and when the two organizations came together, it maintained 3 projects this year out of Leadership Bismarck Mandan were very specific to Bismarck. And that was The Rewind, which is a podcast centered around local retired individuals with the goal of learning more about that population and find opportunities for them. We find that people never really retire. They just go on to do other and different and more intriguing things. And so how do we engage with that particular population? And so we had one team that is working on a podcast. We had one team who is working on Welcome to Bismarck signs. And we know that the signs right now are a little tired, and we've grown. And so some of those signs are actually in the city a little bit further in, and they need to be pushed outside. And so that particular committee is working on removing and replacing current signs to better welcome individuals to the community. And then Paw Patrol, no, it's not that cartoon that you're thinking about. It is literally working on obtaining a therapy canine for Bismarck Police Department to help community members in their relationship with law enforcement. And so, again, the Leadership Bismarck Mandan, those young people, those people who are part of the cohort, they take on a project that ultimately gives back to the community in which they are a part of. Talent attraction, that makeyourmarkbismarckmandan.com. We are continuing to grow in people who are coming to that page because we're doing a lot of very focused marketing to reach out to people outside of the state of North Dakota to let them know that we are a business-friendly state, we are a business-friendly community in Bismarck, and helping them understand how we can help them move to Bismarck, come to Bismarck, and make their life here as well. The top states, you'll notice there, you say, well, North Dakota, that's us. That happens because some of us are looking at the website as well. But we also have people from outside of Bismarck who are looking at our information and looking to move their particular business here. But if you take a look at 2 through 5, Virginia, Minnesota, Texas, and Colorado, if you compare those states to where the students are coming to the University of Mary and BSC, very similar. So if you look at the students that are moving here to go to college, there's businesses in those same states that are looking to come here to open up a business or to move here as well. So there's some direct correlation, and we want to take advantage of that. So business attraction and development. Nathan, in our economic development team, has been doing a lot of reaching out and connecting, again, with other people. They attended the EPIC conference. It's the Energy, Progress, and Innovation Conference earlier this year. They connected with over 1,000 attendees and 200 exhibitors. We have contact information for many people who were at that particular conference, and we're in dialogue with them through some regular email conversations so that we can help them understand if they're not already doing business in Bismarck, how do we get you to do business in Bismarck? And then our marketing efforts in Q1, we've been doing a lot of reach out via LinkedIn, through Meta, website traffic, trade shows, and emails. All that to say is that we've reached nearly 1 million people by those efforts, and we kind of skinny that down. We take them through the funnel, and we try to make sure that we can make connections with those people and stay connected to them. On the top of the slide, you see Business Boot Camp. It's a multi-stage developmental program built to guide participants through a complete process of starting a business. We've heard from many people that are in the small business area or people who want to start a business here in this community. They want some help. And so we're partnering up with some of the entrepreneurs in our community and helping them. They're helping us put together a business boot camp. Probably we'll be kicking that off more so towards the end of the year. We've got some strategic planning that we'll be doing this summer at the Chamber EDC, so we just need to divide and conquer, and Business Boot Camp will probably be happening towards the end of the year, but we're excited about that particular item. And I left it short and sweet because I know that you've got an awful lot on your agenda, and you all know that you can reach out at any point in time and ask about any of the programs or the efforts that we have going on. We have lunch on the patio. We've got one coming up on July 10th. Last week, we served lunch on the patio to our membership to over 150 people. And so that was an amazing opportunity to make connections, again, with the business community. We've got mixers. We've got all sorts of events going on. We had a golf event here in town that was sold out. And so, again, lots of great opportunities to connect with the business community and other members and stay engaged and appreciate this beautiful city in which we live. Any questions?
Commissioner Conley.
Not so much a question, but you mentioned lunch on the patio.
Yes, sir.
It is a great event. I was at the last one, and arguably the EDC has one of the better views out the back of the patio and things as you're talking with people. And despite it being overcast that day, the weather cooperated, so we enjoyed both outdoor and the inside. There was not a lot of wind, so.
It was a Chamber EDC kind of a day.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions that you might have for me?
Please. So.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving to regular agenda item C, public hearing on ordinance 6622, zoning map amendment from existing PUD to a new PUD. And this is ultimately a continuation. But I think, Ben, you've got some updates for us.
Yes, Mayor, I do. I'll just wait till here, it looks like it might be coming up. At the same time. I think I'll get it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As the Mayor indicated, this is a continuation of a public hearing that was held on May 13th of this year, just a couple weeks ago, centered around a zoning ordinance change for, well, it's actually ordinance 6622 in your packets. There are a variety of issues associated with Misty Waters incorporated into this change, but the most substantive item was the setback line associated with residential properties adjacent to Misty Waters Bay. What I took from the May 13th meeting for continuation purposes were two pieces of direction provided by consensus to staff, and one of those was to consider modifying the setback line, which for those not able to see the screen and for those that are able to see the screen, the May 13th PUD suggested what I'll refer to as the inland edge of a drainage easement that runs adjacent to the bay. For most homes, that the original setback or the existing setback line of the 2005 Lomar line lies closer inland than that inland edge of the drainage easement. Some homes actually have that Lomar line which extends beyond that inland edge of the drainage easement, and I'll demonstrate that with some of the images. So this is an example of, I should say, the second piece of direction that we got was to notify all the residents that we originally notified of the public hearing process, which we did. And as part of that notification process, this map was essentially included in a link in that notification. But one of the public or one of the individuals who provided public testimony, I'll just start with their lot as a point of example. So in May of 2013, and apologize if you're colorblind, but I'll try to describe this as well. So the red line essentially on this lot would represent that inland edge of the drainage easement, where you see the hatched green lines all over this map. That represents where the letter of map revision from 2005 geographically takes place. What is proposed based on the commission direction on May 13th is to use this black line, which generally for most lots follows that inland edge of the drainage easement, but where that Lomar line is closer to the water, for lack of a better term, it follows that Lomar line. If it's closer to the water, whatever is closer to the bay is what we're following. And you can see there's a few lots that are impacted around Misty Waters. Certainly happy to talk about this map. Zoom into any parts of the subdivision that you'd like. But essentially, we think this complied with your direction from the last meeting. If this is something you ultimately approve and want us to move forward with, probably the next steps would be for me to reach out to a local, likely a local consulting engineering firm to basically legally describe what that new line will be, and then for us to record that document and put that recorder's number into the ordinance itself to specify what the line is, for what the new setback line would be for Misty Water subdivision. So happy to answer any questions that you might have additionally.
Just to follow up, Ben, so that the principal change from May 13th to now is that we moved to address the concerns that were brought forth at least by one or two individuals on their setback, having taken away some buildable space that they previously had, to adjust back to increase to their original line. Is that not correct?
That's correct, Mayor and Commissioners. And although maybe one or two people spoke to it, it's more than one or two lots that are impacted. But so every lot where that 2005 Lomar line was closer to the water than the inland edge of the drainage easement, we used that 2005 Lomar line.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was following that. Okay, anybody else have questions? Okay, it's a continuation of a public hearing, and even though we had closed public comment, I think it's only appropriate that I allow opportunity for public comment at this point in time with this new information. So public comment period is now open. Anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward. State your name and sign in.
Can I borrow your first slide, please?
It should be on there.
Popped up? Then I don't have to.
This is the map. It's
Thank you.
It's an interactive map. So, are you looking for your line?
Yep, just that first piece that you brought up, and then I don't have to put up my little 8x12 on the camera.
This is the extent you're looking for?
Yes, sir, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Pat Spillman, and I am speaking tonight in opposition to the approval of the proposed PUD amendment, which in essence is a creation of a new PUD for Misty Waters. My wife and I purchased our property, lots 60 and 61, on November 4th, 2005, nearly 20 years ago. We were involved with Misty Waters. We never anticipated a change in the building setback in Misty Waters whatsoever. We based our lot purchases and construction of our home based on Bismarck Ordinance 5435. There is no valid reason to amend the PUD to clarify the rear yard setback in Misty Waters. This issue was already considered and decided by the North Dakota Supreme Court. The rear yard setback for the Bayside residential lots, as set forth in the PUD, was always and has been the contour line in the 2005 Lomar F, as established by the August 2006 Major PUD Amendment. Again, on September 28th, the North Dakota Supreme Court held as a matter of law, the PUD for Misty Waters unambiguously states that the minimum setback from the bay is delineated by a contour line established by the served meets and bounds legal description from the 2005 Lomar F, and the seller's homes violates the PUD. Commissioner Schmitz at the Planning and Zoning meeting in March 26, 25, meeting minutes, page 13, said that the elevation is the city's interpretation how other homes were allowed to be constructed, or was the setback line, it was floating. And if the elevation is the city's interpretation, how is there other homes that were allowed to be constructed in the floodplain with no Lomar if you're using the elevation as a setback? The current ordinance has no mention of changing using setback based on elevation or reference to be the de facto inside edge of the drainage easement being the setback. Why was this even used, or who decided it was appropriate? What the city is really requesting this evening is that the commission essentially grant not just an amendment, but rather a whole new PUD ordinance. This new proposed ordinance can be construed as spot zoning to a degree. It is evident, in my opinion, the decision to create this new PUD is to benefit all non-compliant home building setbacks, some landowners, and some get no benefit whatsoever. This amendment is an attempt to grandfather past zoning errors into compliance. My building permit contained the same setback information as the seller's. It used the old 30-foot from the back. It never mentioned the Lomar whatsoever. Side yard setbacks were in feet, back was in feet, and so it's exactly the same as the building permit for the sellers. I want my rear setback to be increased by 50 foot towards the bay as done for the sellers and others in Dream Circle. As this amendment is written, I receive no benefit from this new ordinance. Oops, lost my picture. As you can see, My home is, come back here. My home. You got a pointer? Good, thank you. Yeah, you can use that there. My property is there. I followed the ordinance and followed the setback line, and I'm legal as far as the ordinance is today. If you go across the way, you can see that the sellers and others in Dream Circle gain up to 50 feet of new buildable property area. I get nothing. I thought at one time it was the direction of the commission to the stakeholder meeting was find something fair and equitable. I don't know that it's fair and equitable. The city initially established a new setback for Sellers Home and others in Dream Circle which were in error. The city now wants to amend the PUD to make other non-compliant homes compliant. I perceive this new PUD as being initiated because of some additional potential liability. It seems to me that the city is pleasing those that violated the setback and no rewards for those that followed it. The city of Bismarck failed to enforce the legally binding setback ordinance in the Misty Waters PUD. We've been after this for nearly 6 years, resulting in multiple homes being built in violation. Now, rather than upholding the ordinances, the city is proposing to revise the PUD to accommodate these violations retroactively. This is not merely administrative correction. It risks undermining the integrity of the zoning process and may even set precedents. When those who are supposed to enforce the rules begin rewriting them for the benefit of the violators, the fox is already in the henhouse. This leads me to my next concerns. Is there a conflict of interest here? The city created the problem. In the context of creating a new PUD to change the rear building setback requirement, a conflict of interest appears to have arisen. The city was retroactively changing the setback only after violations were discovered. It suggests special treatment, not uniform zoning enforcement. In addition, there was pressure from private parties to alter the rules for the convenience of damage control. I also believe that city officials may have some personal or financial connections to the parties involved. My questions are, do any commissioners or their family members employed by anyone involved in this action? 2, do any commissioners or their family members have business relationships with any Misty Water residents or Misty Water's board meetings currently or retired in the last 2 years? Do any commissioners or their family members have personal relationships with any Misty Waters residents or Misty Waters board members? Has any Misty Waters residents contributed to excess of $100 to any commissioners or their family charities, either sponsored or employed with? Will any commissioners or their family members benefit in any way from this change if approved? I respectfully request the city provide the following: confirmation of whether any modification to the PUD setback or zoning interpretation is currently under consideration elsewhere. Assurance that such change will follow the full procedural requirements under Bismarck zoning law and the Misty Waters PUD amendment provisions. A legal statement, 3, and a legal statement or policy clarification addressing how such changes, if made, do not constitute a conflict of interest or undermine the integrity of zoning enforcement. There's one thing someone has to explain to me, how changing my setback without my permission makes these other homes compliant. I didn't sign off on anything to change my property setback. How is it that the Director of Community Development is allowed to request an amendment to Misty Waters PUD? Title 14, Zoning Chapter 14-04-18.4 states, all other changes in the planned unit shall be initiated in the following manner. Application for planned development amendment. The application shall be completed and filed by all owners of the property proposed to be changed or his or her designated agent. The application shall be submitted by the specified application deadline and on the proper form and shall not be accepted by the Director of Community Development unless and until all application requirements of this section have been fulfilled. I respectfully submit this inquiry input in good faith as a concerned property owner and a citizen with an interest in transparent, equitable, and consistent land use regulation. What we need now is leadership by the commission. Enforcement of existing ordinances would have avoided all chaos surrounding this setback issue. It is nearly 6 years since this violation occurred, and we wasted the last 9 months in stakeholder meetings with nothing to show. As public officials, your duty is to uphold the law and the integrity of the zoning process, not to violate retroactively. The decision before you should be guided by established facts, legal precedents, and the city's own ordinances, not personal relationships, sympathies, or political pressure. Remember Uncle Ben's advice to young Peter Parker, Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Your personal and your professional integrity will show through your decision on what to do with this item. Thank you for your time.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Spillman? No.
Yes.
Spillman. You allege that the city commissioners are somehow on the take here, and we're supposed to prove we're not? I don't even know anybody that lives in Misty Waters other than the people that have appeared here. What is your evidence that somebody on the city commission is somehow on the take here?
There's no, I can't, I'm just asking the question.
You're making allegations as though this is somehow a legitimate allegation.
There is, how to say this? There is a recording of a conversation, and I won't say with who, but that has already made their mind up a number of years ago on this item. And in another venue, I have clear evidence.
You have evidence? Why don't you take it to the
So
police or something?
I'll clear his, because I actually brought this to planning and zoning. At one point in time, someone who lives out there worked for me, and planning and zoning cleared me of my conflict.
So that's fine. But all I'm asking is there anybody there that I don't know about that's involved with whatever out there? Not accusing anybody. It's a question.
Commissioner Cleary.
I guess I would just also like to state for the record, and I understand that you're saying you're not accusing, but it came off accusatory. I also don't know anyone in the Misty Waters area other than public comment here. I have no financial, personal gain for anything out there, and so I just want to put that on the record. That's where I'm at. I appreciate you asking the question, but it did come off accusatory, so I just want to put that out
No,
there.
that was not the intent.
Okay,
All
thank you.
I'm worried about is, I've watched this commission, each time somebody has a conflict of interest, they bring it up and they're point blank honest about it. All I'm making sure is there's an opportunity here that same thing occurs here.
Perfect. It's been noted.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
This is public comment. Anyone else who wish to speak, please come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Jason Sellers. I'll keep this short. At the last meeting, it was brought to the attention of, can we, resolve this line and figure this out to where we, address issues that were brought up by other homeowners out here last meeting, which staff seems to have done. And, I think through countless meetings over the past years, we've shown that the amount of people out at Misty Waters that are in favor of this change, plus with the recent changes, I just ask tonight that you approve it. I won't waste any more of your time when talking about anything stuff from the past, but I just would very much appreciate your support in tonight in approving this. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. This is public comment. Anyone else who wishes to speak, please come forward. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Hearing or seeing anyone further, public comment period is now closed. Commissioners.
I'll move we approve as presented.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Zinker.
I'll make one final comment about this, and I'll just reiterate that at no point in time was anybody ever held accountable for this. And I'm telling you right now, you're setting one, if this passes, you're setting one heck of a precedence. Being in the construction world, there are a lot of contractors out there just waiting for this to pass. And when it passes, we're just gonna pull our permits and do what we want, because that's exactly what happened in this scenario. This thing is built well over the line. I've said it many times. The construction should have been stopped, and it wasn't. So that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Any other discussion? Commissioner
Mr.
Risch.
Mayor, Commissioner Zinker, I don't disagree. There were some issues. There were a lot of blame to go around. But what do we do at this point? Have up to 17 homes torn down? I mean, that doesn't seem rational at all. And I don't like setting any kind of precedent any more than you do. But
This is gonna be.
Commissioner Conley.
I'm not, I've said it, and I've said it in multiple meetings, I'm not for tearing down any homes, but sometimes you just can't right a right. It's just a mess going forward, and I'm not comfortable gerrymandering changes to just make it an uncomfortable wrong. It's wrong regardless of what the decision is made, so I'll respect whatever people say, but that's where I'm at.
Any other discussion? We'll call roll.
Commissioner Zinker.
No.
Commissioner Connolly.
No.
Commissioner Cleary.
Yes.
Commissioner Risch.
yes,
Mayor Schmitz.
Yes. Moving to item D, public hearing on a request for the vacation of a 33-foot statutory right-of-way on Lot 1, Block 3, Lot 1, Block 4, Promontory Point 6 Edition, and lots 29, 20 through 31, Block 1, Promontory Point 7th Edition. Ben?
Thank you, Mayor. Just bear with me one second. Okay, I think we're up and running now. Thank you, Mayor. The item the mayor just referenced, the property is located in northwest Bismarck, west of Tyler Parkway, on the north side of Frisco Way. The right-of-way was dedicated with plats associated with Promontory Point 6 and 7, which were recorded in 2017 prior to the annexation of the area, which occurred in 2021. Generally, the section line right-of-way, which this is associated with, is not applicable within incorporated communities. So there's 33 feet generally of section line that's dedicated for public use outside of incorporated communities. This particular area, these areas were annexed in 2021. However, there is a plat note which exists on the specific plats of Promontory Point 6 and 7 with these specific lots identifying the 33 feet of statutory right-of-way. It has been confirmed that the right-of-way is not currently or in the future needed. Staff does recommend the vacation of all of the 33-foot statutory right-of-way associated with Lot 1, Block 3, and Lot 1, Block 4, Promontory Point 6, addition, as well as lots 29 through 31, Block 1, Promontory Point 7th edition. Any questions that you have related to this right-of-way vacation request?
Any questions? This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to speak to this, please come forward.
Thank you, Mayor Schmitz. Landon Neimiller with Swenson Hagen Engineering, representing the walkthroughs in this case. Yeah, so really everything Ben had said is correct. Just to add a little bit of additional information toward the portions of these plats that are still not annexed into the city, also had some of the statutory right-of-way dedicated on the plat. the county has vacated those already as well. A couple weeks ago, they finished the process over there. So just continuing on with it on the city's end.
Thank you. Again, public comment is open. Anyone wish to speak to this, please come forward. A second call for public comment. A third and final call for public comment. Public comment period is now closed. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Commissioner Zenker?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Next item D, consider request for approval of the 2025 to 2029 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan and 2025 Action Plan. Hillary?
Good evening, Mayor Schmitz and Commissioners. Thank you for having me. Included in tonight's packet for Agenda Item 3E is a general overview of the Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG for short, that is administered as part of the Planning Division of Community Development. The City of Bismarck participates in the CDBG program as an entitlement community, receiving an annual allocation from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD for short, which is then used to meet one of the 3 national objectives set by HUD, which must include either a benefit to low to moderate income persons, the removal of slum or blight, or an urgent need typically associated with a declared national disaster. The City of Bismarck has historically aligned its CDBG goals and objectives with activities that accomplish the national objective of a benefit to low to moderate income persons. A requirement of continued participation in the CDBG program is the development of a 5-year consolidated plan. This plan serves as the framework for the city's goals and objectives and the implementation of activities over that 5-year period. Goals and objectives are then implemented yearly through the CDBG Annual Action Plan. What you have been provided with in the memo in your packet is a link to the final version of the 2025 to 2029 CDBG Consolidated Plan. This is the version that will be submitted to HUD for final acceptance once approval is provided by this commission. The plan consists of multiple major sections, including market analysis, needs assessment, strategic plan, and the 2025 annual action plan. We received our final formula in May, along with the announcement that the City of Bismarck is to receive $389,924 for its 2025 program year. This allocation has been committed to 5 subrecipients and can be reviewed in the annual action plan section of the plan. The action being requested at this time is for approval of the 2025 to 2029 CDBG Consolidated Plan, including the 2025 Annual Action Plan, and permission to submit the plan to HUD for final approval as presented. Do you have questions for me?
Commissioner Risch?
I just want to say I glanced through, I didn't read every page. It's 324 pages long. It's an incredible amount of useful information for the city. So I just appreciate your work on this.
Thank you. We appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Commissioner Zenker?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Next item, F, Bismarck Event Center operating models. Jason?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to tee up Dan Fenton with Jones, Lang, and LaSalle. Dan is online and ready to provide a presentation. The presentation that he'll be providing was part of your agenda packet, and I believe there should be paper copies that were printed at your workstations. They were also handed out at the meeting 2 weeks ago. In addition to the information that Dan will be providing, if you have questions from our HR Director, Leanne Schmidt, Leanne, myself, Attorney Meese, met with Dan and explored the various hybrid models that were considered to effectively try and work with a private management company and city staff. And so rather than Dan have to carry that portion of the conversation, Leanne does have some remarks if you have any questions when we get to that point. But Dan's got the slideshow and he'll be running the slides. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Commission, Mayor, thank you very much. Mitch Anzavino is also with me from the JLL team. And so we will start our comments on the slide that you see here. And just a quick recap from the last time we were together. one of the things that the commissioners and mayor, everybody had asked us to look at was a couple of things. One was a little bit more detail, specifically related to the notion of an authority board. And we have some comments to make here, plus you'll see in your packet on the slide that we're about to show a little bit of detail on some of the key fundamental pieces around an authority board. There's a sample that you can see there of sort of makeup of that board, so we'll talk about that in a second. The other, which was mentioned earlier, was also going back to some of the operating models that we had discussed and looking at some of the possibilities related to what was talked about was the possibilities of sort of private management with public employees and some different things that we're going to talk through those. We also have a quick review of kind of a job description of a general manager. And then with the last piece we want to finish on is we have comments here around what we're calling the employee protection plan. And so we've put some thought into, as we think about next steps here, making sure that there are a lot of considerations that can be certainly part of ultimately moving forward based on the direction that the commission would like to go. So I will start with the next slide here that you see after this. This is a overview, and there's more detail, I think, Mitch, in the appendix also. But this is an overview of the authority board, sort of the sort of key makeup of the board, some key fundamentals related to how we have seen authority boards be most effective. You'll notice in that second paragraph, we use the term, we say it functions as a fiduciary oversight board, meaning that we want to make sure that the board, if the commission decides to move forward with this sort of governance model, that we really have secured an approach where board members clearly have both responsibility as well as authority in terms of how they function and how they can support the success of the event center going forward. If you look at the right-hand side there, this is a sample, and this certainly can evolve as we finalize everything of the types of industries, if you will, or backgrounds that authority board members might come from. One of the things that we think is important in formation of something like this is really having a plan for, again, the type of both backgrounds and expertise that we want to see on the board. So you can see a little bit there. And then you'll notice here on the list that we say here, these are just an example of, things that we would finalize as part of a motion to move forward and really, if you will, finalize all the details of an authority board. You can see some of the things that we would be going through there in terms of how it functions, how the meetings function, all the sort of details there of making sure that, we have a functional board. You'll see at the bottom there, one of the things that we think is an outcome of all this is continuing to evolve the relationship with the Bismarck-Mandan Convention Visitors Bureau. And so they're being a key partner. We sort of see them also there. And also there would be, if you will, ex officio members of the board too that would come from city management and other places. But hopefully this slide gives the commission sort of a visual, a sort of a summary of what the board would potentially be constituent of and some of the key functionality pieces that would be part of success here. So we'll go to the next slide here. The other thing that the commission talked about when we met last was to continue to look at some of the models that we had talked about in our first presentation that sort of is in the overall deck. And if you go to the next slide, we continue to look at, if you will, we sort of analyzed different potential models as part of our discussion. And the first one was the discussion of the authority board overseeing, essentially a public sector general manager with public sector employees. Really, this goes back to our initial comment about the overall sort of, if you want to call it the things that we think need to be accomplished over the next period of time that we've discussed in the last commission meeting. So we won't necessarily go through all of this in detail, but we did, want to make sure that that was shown here today in terms of a possibility. We think that the model that we talked a little bit about last meeting, we want to explore further. So we'll go to the next one that you see here on this slide, which is having an authority board and then having essentially private management with public employees. And so if you look at some of the bullet points that we have here, we had a great conversation with City HR, and I'm going to turn it over to her I think she's ready here in a second. We had a great conversation, spent some time, as well as the city attorney, really sort of strategizing. So the conversation was really specific about, what are the possible ways we could make this work, and would it really be functional? So do we think it would be an effective way to ultimately be able to move all the things that we've identified in our last conversation forward? And could we create an efficient, if you will, internal model related to how the internal team would sort of be managed, how incentive plans could potentially or not be able to be, if you will, put in place, and some different things. So let me stop here, and if it's okay, I'll turn it over to our city HR leader, and she can talk a little bit about that conversation as well as her thoughts. Is she there?
Yeah, she's coming.
Okay. Sorry. Did I go too quickly?
Go ahead, Leon.
Hello. So I did have a copy, so I don't know where I put it. If somebody finds it, let me know. But I'll go ahead and just start talking. So.
I probably have my one from 2 weeks ago in my bag.
No, I have a copy of that. I had a copy of talking points for myself, and somehow I strategically placed them somewhere. So. Okay, thank you. So I guess starting out, it was a really robust conversation. We took a lot of time trying to consider.
Leon, pull the mic down.
Took a lot of time trying to consider. Sorry, I just don't want to wreck anything. Okay. Took a lot of time to consider the options, what we could do, what we think seemed reasonable. I have over 30 years of experience in HR, includes private and public sector entities, including the city, and I spent about 20 years at the state. The state has 60 different agencies, many of which have unclassified employees, and then there's a large classified service as well. And there were agencies that had unclassified employees, and generally those were set aside as those that were unique to state government. So some examples were Bank of North Dakota, their officers, their sales, Rough Rider Industries, which was part of Department of Corrections and Rehab. They have some sales folks, so those were unique from what you would call typical work for classified service. And so with that, I think it's important to remember that the classified service was created back in the late 1800s to protect political subs from being impacted by political changes that could affect employees performing the work to provide the infrastructure for city, county, state, federal. And so I explained the positions. In the late 1990s, Workforce Safety and Insurance was removed from the classified service. Their argument was that they were like a private insurance company. And so that was done. And then in 2008, the agency was brought back into the classified service by a vote of the people. But prior to that, the former WSI director was charged with misappropriating $18,000 in public monies and was convicted of a felony. The money that was used for employee lunches, gift cards, and maybe some kind of awards, the incentive models and methods that private sector have versus what the public sector have are very different. And there can be consequences like explained in the WSI situation. Public employees are subject to the North Dakota anti-gift clause, which means we can't receive anything of value of more than $25. And you think about that today, that's a Yeti mug, or it's a sweatshirt, So public employees are also subject to different things like open records and open meetings. And so it's important to keep these things in mind when you think of having a workforce that's going to be together. North Dakota is a right-to-work state. And so what that means is I, as the employee, and the employer can end that relationship at any time. Our probationary employees with the city for the probationary period are what you call at will, and then any seasonal part-time employees are also at will. But once a full-time employee completes their process of their probation, then they become what we called in the classified service. And there's a civil service process is associated with that for classified employees and that need to be followed. And a private employer is not going to be subject to that or have the knowledge. And so it would be problematic managing and supervising employees with commingled types of employees. Private sector is decidedly different than public employment. Private employers must pay overtime. They're not available. They can't give employees comp time like public employees can, or public employers can. It would be administratively very challenging and problematic to have private employees performing the same work next to public employees in a city department that are doing the same thing. How do we defend that? And being in a private sector, you can incentivize and do things with employees that are not going to be allowed with the public sector. When you think about that, we have 15 different diverse departments across the city, and they can be called upon, those 650 employees, to respond to situations like long-term employment situations or law enforcement situations, weather-related issues, disasters, floods, 100 inches of snow plus for winters. And those employees would want to be incentivized as well, assuming we had a group of employees that were public employees that somehow managed to get some kind of incentives. It would really be problematic and I think would really negatively impact morale. And I just wanted to cover that. I would stand for any questions, I guess.
Great. And are any questions we can for?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, I was just going to keep going, but I didn't know if there were any questions, so I'll hold here.
I think you can proceed.
Okay. So if you go to next slide here, sort of back to the recommended approach, we talked about this last meeting. We had gone over this with the city HR team there, talked through some of the things that you see listed here that she's already really talked about in terms of incentive plans and, different ways that we would try to create a environment for, if you want to call it environment, to help us move forward, and some of the opportunities or challenges that would occur. So we continue to suggest that the authority board, so bringing a new governance model in with accountability, with fiduciary responsibility, and with a third-party operator in the event center, really positions us, we think, most successfully in terms of the future. Now, if you look at this slide here at the bottom, we make a note here that there are some key considerations when it comes to if we move in this direction, to really still making sure that there is what we're calling a robust employee protection plan that would be outlined and would be part of not just RFP process, but the actual contract between the city and a potential third-party operator. So you'll see a couple of examples here. For example, staff retention, right? Alignment of benefits. We put that here to really look at making sure that we went to whoever ultimately, or as we thought about a third party, we made sure that that was part of the employee program. We talked about things like tenured employees. So if there were some of our current team that were close to maybe either retirement or the end of their tenure, there would be a sort of a proactive effort to try to see if there was a way to place them in alternative locations in, within the city structure. We also, you'll see here the whole stipulation that the third party, when we want to encourage them here to work with our team, keep them on, give them the sort of support that's needed. So you'll notice here there could be provisions around termination so that it couldn't happen essentially until the city was convinced that there was a period of time that had gone on. So clearly support had been given to the internal team members who essentially were part of the future team at the event center. So these are just some examples. We have more that we'll show you in a second, but we want the commission to know that this is not a situation where the city has the ability, and we would recommend this, to really make sure that these are covered and part of a transition plan. So we'll go to the next slide here. This is just a quick overview of really what you just heard from the city HR leadership. So you can read this, but this sort of kind of reviews what you just heard. We're going to move through these slides pretty quickly, but this details what a general manager kind of job description would be. This was a request that was made, and you can see here's a narrative around the kind of things that a future general manager is going to be responsible for. These bullet points that you see here give you a sense of the breadth of the responsibility of the general manager. One quick caveat, which is not in this, but I just want to mention this as it relates to the city's ability to make sure that there is the type of environment that we want to make sure of. In most of the third-party agreements that we are involved with, the general manager position in particular, the city has a lot of authority over the hiring practice, the performance, and the authority board would have a lot of direct involvement in what I would call the oversight of that position and the leadership there. So there's an opportunity there to make sure that, again, the city's got the ability to influence, if you will, the environment, the outcome, et cetera. This is a little bit on salary structure here. If you look at that bottom box here, you'll notice that these are some of the typical incentives that are put into place for general managers and management companies. We want to make sure, if that is the direction of the commission, that we create incentives on behalf of the commissioners that really reflect the priorities of Bismarck. And so there's a process that we would go through to really come back and say, here's the type of incentives that we want to make sure are part of both RFP process and final contract. If you go to the next slide here, you'll see a little bit more here on the detail of some of the employee protection plan ideas that we have here. So if you look at some of these things that we've got, some of these we noted ahead of time, but you can see more here on how we would make sure that there was continuity and how we would make sure we did everything that was possible and that really the commissioners wanted to make sure was in place as part of a smooth transition. So we'll stop there, right, and just pause for a moment, answer questions. But we wanted to take a moment so the questions that were asked in our last session, the commissioners and mayor, that that we really did that due diligence, and here's the feedback that we got.
Commissioners, questions of Dan?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, Dan, if we proceed either way, will JLL be able to help develop the RFP?
Yeah, we're happy to do that, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity in that RFP development to make sure that, again, a lot of the priorities are basically noted in that RFP process.
Commissioner Conley.
On the option of the third-party GM, so just a clarification, like we had a director before and they received all of the public employee benefits, so the civil service protections and all of those things. With a private party, the civil service protections wouldn't apply. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
So.
The one thing I would say, Commissioner, on that, though, kind of the reason I mentioned the nature of the general manager position when it comes to the authority board, if we go that direction, or commission, is that is a position that is structured in a way normally where the city has a lot of, let's call it just authority over the who is hired and performance and a lot of issues. That position is one that is a critical one for there to be collective involvement, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary.
Dan, thanks for all the info. I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. Like when you're talking about with the authority board and when it comes to the employee protections, or like you were just saying, the GM role, you, in other instances, in other communities that you've walked through this process, that pieces of that are involved within the RFP as well as in the actual contract, correct?
Yeah. The key thing that I think is important, we were trying to really thought through this with all the internal conversations, is we want to make sure that both the RFP states our priorities, collective, and then in that contract, that the things that we believe are important from a standpoint of key performance indicators, as well as everything we talked about in terms of employee protection, all of that is stipulated both in the RFP, so we can make sure that the respondents can tell us how they're going to do this, and then two, in the actual contract.
Right, because I think that my main concern or goal would be that you can put it in the RFP and ask people to provide that, but I want to make sure that it's also in the contract,
Absolutely.
whether it's the KPIs, the employee protection, the involvement of the board with hiring the GM, and just so that we can make sure that we have the ability to hold them accountable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Commissioner Conley.
Dimitri, could you come up, please? I know you're back in the corner there. At any point in time, has this department functioned like an enterprise fund supposed to function without the bailout of general or reserve funds, as far as you know?
Mayor Commissioners, Commissioner Connolly, it has never produced a profit, if that's what you mean by.
Or even broke even?
Or even broke even.
Okay. I think it would be important for context that we don't refer to it as an enterprise fund since it doesn't function that way. And we have other departments that do. As we go forward in trying to find the next best answer for this topic. So I just wanted to make that a point of clarification.
Sure.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Commissioner Zinker.
Mayor, Commissioners, so I'll just expand on that because that is true that the event center doesn't operate in a profitable scenario, but when it has events and it brings people in from outside the community, it does have an positive economic impact on our community.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just use one in a big jigsaw puzzle of stuff. You can't just use one of those pieces to make a decision.
And even more to the point of why not using that term, because we have other departments that function as enterprise funds that hold up to what that definition would be. So, how so?
Good. Commissioner Cleary.
Just to elaborate, I think that asking whether it operates in the red or the black, it proves that it brings in its own income, which to me is the definition of an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund operates as a business. It brings in its own income. It attempts to operate off of that income. There's private businesses that end up in the red all the time. Obviously, it's not the goal, but it doesn't mean it's not an enterprise fund. I guess it might even be just a little off topic at this point, but I guess I don't know if changing it and not calling it an enterprise fund changes anything.
I don't know that that's really the topic here, but it's been classified as an enterprise fund. But its intention is to drive economic benefit to the community. That's the intention of it. Which, if that does that generates revenue, which ultimately helps fund its operations. It's intended to drive economic benefit. So,
I'm comfortable with that.
So, commissioners. Commissioner Risch.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we have JLL develop and publish an RFP to contract with a third party to operate our events center. Further, that the RFP include the employee protective provisions as outlined in the presentation.
Does that include the authority board concept?
I didn't address that. We can deal with that separately, or I could add that.
It can be all one or it can be two separate.
I'll second. I guess I'll just add for discussion purposes that I don't want to operate with a third-party operator without the authority board concept, because I think that that's what gives us the oversight that's needed. And I think it makes the most sense with the concepts and the recommendations that are laid out.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment to include the authority board.
Is that okay, Julie?
Can we do that, Julie?
To be extra clear, if we could just have Commissioner Risch withdraw that motion.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw my second.
And then if we could have Commissioner Risch restate his very concise motion and then add the part about the advisory board.
Sure. I move that we have JLL develop and publish an RFP to contract with a third party to operate our event center. Further, that the RFP include the employee protective provisions as outlined in the presentation and also include an authority board.
Second.
Okay. We have discussion, and I have some comments that I want to add. So first, I'm going to acknowledge that we have had 18 months plus of difficult time, and I certainly appreciate all of the hard work that has gone on by the team members at the event center. But we have to recognize the fact that the citizens of Bismarck deserve better than what we've had operating for the last several decades. Busy does not always mean we're productive. And we've been busy, but not necessarily productive. This is largely why I support the change. We need to be bold. On February 27th of 2024, the fact-finding committee submitted a report that clearly indicated there were operating issues at the event center. As of yet, several of those have not been addressed, including inventory for alcohol beverages by a third-party vendor. Further, I have learned recently that we have no solid tracking of cash when used at the parking lot for ins and outs because we have the same person reconciling the bag as who created the bag. We are not properly inventorying our concession stands. Our POS system is not tracking that, and as the current holder of the department, I've had nobody ask me would I support enhancing that, and the answer would have been immediately yes. We have other ongoing internal control problems that have not been addressed, and I don't believe 15 months is, I believe in 15 months since that report has been delivered, I would have expected to see some of those things. We still don't have a comprehensive plan of how we should operate, which is clearly pointed out by the JLL report. So based upon what the JLL report has shown and what I'm aware of from the fact-finding committee that was approved by the commission at the time, it is clear that we need to move into a direction differently than we are. Further, the third-party vendor will be able to offer compensation packages that will incent our team members to go out and attract the types of activities to the event center that will drive economic development and growth and spending in our community. Doesn't mean we don't have some other things to do. We have some of those things on our agenda yet today. Those need to also be addressed. This is an opportunity for us to be bold and to provide to our citizens an opportunity to truly attract things that will bring dollars to the community and events to the community that the citizens want to see. Being busy does not mean we're productive. Those are my comments. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we're going to call roll.
Commissioner Zenker?
No.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Moving to item H. Consider request to receive the recommendation to select a consultant for the Bismarck Event Center's indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity proposals. Jason.
Mayor and Commissioners, from the last commission meeting, you'll recall there was a request to put together a request for proposals for indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity architectural services to help move forward and implement the event center capital improvements plan that was developed recently by the Upel Design Group. A selection committee was formed. We were fortunate to receive 5 very qualified proposals from local architectural firms. I will admit, I was not part of the selection committee. I did proctor and facilitate the process, and Mayor Schmitz was part of the selection committee, as well as City Engineer Gabe Schell, Interim Director Amanda Yellow, and Assistant Airport Director Matthew Raminzi. My takeaway from the discussions at the table, all 5 firms were qualified to do the work. However, given the expertise and the experience that the Ubel Design Group has learned over the 15-plus years that they have been working in the facility, the selection committee felt that the best, most qualified firm was the Ubel Design Group. And so the recommendation from the firm it was a unanimous selection to recommend moving forward with Ubel Design Group as the architect for the indefinite delivery, indefinite quantities contract. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you.
Commissioners? What are your wishes?
So Jason, you just need direction on whether to move, you want a motion on move
We-
forward with,
Mayor and Commissioners, Commissioner Cleary, we would be looking for a motion to move forward with the Ubel Design Group, since that was the recommendation from the selection committee. The next step would be to engage in contract discussion, ultimately looking forward to having that, I believe it was a 3-year contract with 2 one-year potential extensions.
okay, I will move as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Zinker?
I just got one question. In the memo, it says, oh, you had it, I'm sorry. Today's the 12th, or 10th, my bad.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Rish?
Yes.
Commissioner Zinker?
Jeff, this is nothing personal. No.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Item I, consider request to receive information and direct staff to schedule a public hearing to consider entering into an exclusive agreement memorandum of understanding with AP Construction, Ubel Design, and JLG Architects regarding a proposed hotel development near the event center. And Attorney Mees, if you just want to explain a little bit why we got to go through this process and so we can be appropriate, please.
So Mayor and Commissioners, I did attach the,
You need to pull your mic.
oh, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting. So I did attach the opinion or the memo written by one of the attorneys in the office, Josh Dyring. I think he did a great job explaining the process. And so this would be considered a fee-based process, and so the Century Code controls here. And then there's an Attorney General's opinion regarding the necessity for a public hearing. And because it's an Attorney General's opinion that has not been overturned by any other court decision, that is binding on the city. And so that's the requirement for the public hearing on that decision, whether or not to go forward with the group.
So we'd call for a public hearing, have the public hearing, based upon whatever the results of the public hearing, then we could enter into a exclusive agreement at that point in time if we make a decision to do so.
That's correct.
Okay. So we should have a motion if we're going to do that, I believe, to call for the public hearing.
I'll move for staff to schedule a public hearing to consider the MOU with exclusive development rights to the AP Construction, Ubel Design Group, and JLG Architects.
Second.
Is there any discussion? But I would say that, as I move forward on that, the only comment I have is, I know we identified a particular parcel of land, but there are 2 other lots that might be attractive versus the one that's there, so. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Commissioner Rish?
Yes.
Commissioner Zinker?
No.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes. Next, item J, consider request to review and consider a new on-call policy. Doug?
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Item you have before you is a new on-call policy. City of Bismarck has many departments that provide 24-hour service for our citizens. Some of those provide that service through shift work. Some of those provide that service through what we are doing is on-call. We're using on-call, but we don't have an actual policy to compensate our staff for that. So for decades, and this has been since I've been here, it's I've heard about it for 10 years, and it's been going on for 20 years before that, from what I've learned. So what the situation that we have is for these departments that are utilizing on-call, we schedule staff. They sit at home on the hours that they're not scheduled to work, so that's after normal work hours, that's over the weekend, and then they report in to when they get called in by dispatch or for some other emergency. So we have staff giving up time with their family, not able to travel, but we haven't been compensating them for that for years. And so what this policy does is it addresses that. It's vague in how it's been written so that we could provide department directors discretion to implement it. And this has been tried to been worked through for many different times. And kind of the stopping point every time was that we were trying to fit everybody in a box and make them do the same thing for all the departments. And this policy gives a little bit of discretion for directors because we don't all operate the same in the city of Bismarck. Our departments are very different. So when you look at the policy, and you should have a copy at your desk as well, there was a small edit that I'll share with you. When you look at the pay portion of this policy, it doesn't list the specific amount, which I'm happy to share what was discussed, but it gives the commission the authority to set that during our budget process annually. And it's for non-exempt employees, and that's the edit and why you have the copy on your desk. I didn't include that, I just said employees in the original version, but it's for non-exempt employees only. And we had to put in this policy a response time because we are requiring staff to show up at a certain amount of time. They're giving up their free time at home. And so we had a committee that started at the beginning of the year trying to work through all the different scenarios that these departments are working in to provide this 24-hour service. And part of that was discussing what is a reasonable amount of response time, and where we landed was the 30-minute response time. This was presented to the Employee Representative Committee. After much discussion, there was some concern about the 30-minute response time, and it's included in the policy that under normal conditions, like if there's a storm and somebody can't get here for 35 minutes, we're not going to sit with a stopwatch as supervisors. That's not the intent of this. It's just to make sure that we are getting staff as efficiently as possible to what they need to respond to. The dollar amount that was discussed, which is probably the most important part for you to know, commissioners, there were several different options, and several different communities it's all over the board with how they compensate their staff for on-call. But where we landed was a flat $3 for every hour that they are on-call outside of work. So it's not $3 on top of their hourly rate, it's just $3. And what that equates to roughly for each division that utilizes on-call is about $19,968 a year, I believe. Yes, $968 per division that will implement this policy. And annually for our budgets with the divisions and departments that utilize on-call right now for the general fund, it's going to be just shy of $100,000. And for those departments that are fee-based or enterprise funds, it's going to be about $40,000 annually.
Questions for Doug? I commend you and the team for taking this on and addressing it, because I think it's definitely something that I'm kind of ashamed we haven't addressed in the past.
I agree.
Commissioner Risch.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Doug, I was on call for 30 years. It's not what it's cracked up to be. Not only can you not travel someplace, you can't go have a beer, you can't do anything like that, and you've got to be able to report for duty. In the railroad industry, the standard's pretty much an hour and a half. But then when they called me, I'd be going maybe 2 or 3 days, maybe even a week at a time at an outlying point. So but a half hour is going to be difficult, and I would trust the department heads to be somewhat lenient, because some people might live 20 minutes away from where they go to work, so it's pretty difficult just to, have your work clothes on and almost ready in the car when they call you. So, but anyway, it should be compensated. There should be some sort of compensation because your time is not your own when you're on call.
Commissioner Cleary.
Steve and I have had many conversations about this because obviously it's a thing for roads and streets. But to your point, Commissioner Risch, I think that when Doug and I talked about it, it was like, do you say a half hour? Do you say an hour? But I think that the half hour is just our way of setting the precedent that, like, we want you to be there. It needs to be timely, you know, and like Doug said, a lot of times you're on call roads and streets. A lot of times it's because of snow or something like that. So, like, obviously we're hoping that the department heads understand that they're operating at their discretion with some of it too, so.
Commissioners,
Make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Risch?
Yes.
Commissioner Zanker?
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly?
Yes.
Commissioner Cleary?
Yes.
Mayor Schmitz?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Next, item K, consider request from Burley County to hold a joint meeting with the Board of City Commissioners and the Board of County Commissioners to discuss the ETA. When we had our joint commissions meeting on the 3rd of June, myself and Commissioner Bakken discussed that. The intent would be originally to have it as I don't know, kind of call it a working group, but more of a information gathering component where both planning and zoning departments, the city and the county, would present information on the planning and zoning and the ETA and specifically what differences there might be between the two from the regulatory standpoint. And then depending on what would come of that, potentially have a meeting with some public input. My concern it's not a concern, my only request would be is what the public input becomes is that let's have problems that need to be addressed so we can try to correct them instead of just we're saying we don't like to be regulated. Well, we're going to be regulated by somebody. So I think that Commissioner Bakken was in agreement with that. His request was that we did it at the next joint commissions meeting, which I don't know if he said he needed all 10 of us there. I can't remember, Jason.
Mayor and Commissioners, I believe the desire was to have all 10 elected leaders from both commissions there, and recognizing early July could be some holiday time for folks.
Could be difficult, so, I mean, that happens to be July 1. I realize what week that is. And so that may not be so good, and I think we may just have to find another time or do it in August. It didn't seem like it would be problematic if it moved to August for that meeting, but since he brought the request, I think it was more appropriate coming from them because it's an effect to their voting members. Commissioner Conley.
Anybody through DMA, thanks, Mayor and Commissioners, anybody through Dakota Media Access can go back to the County Commission meeting on Monday. It was brought up during the other business, and he did get consensus from all 5 commissioners. And then can watch the Bismarck-Burley meeting, and I appreciate both of you talking about it. He did say the suggestion. I do that work that day, but since I brought it up originally, depending on the decision, I will make that meeting. If it's another day, then I'll make that meeting. So.
And I think we just need to get back with them if that works, or if we would want to move it to and I don't even know what the August one is. I'd have to look at the calendar. Commissioners.
Mayor, Commissioners, July 1 is out for me. I'm gone that entire week.
Yeah, and I knew that was typically yep, and I don't blame you. So Jason and I talked about that afterwards, and we're like, oh, I don't know if this is, I would recommend we try for the August meeting, I think.
Mayor and Commissioners, the joint meeting of the Bismarck-Burley Combined Commissions Committee meeting is the first Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. The first Tuesday in August would be the 5th.
I would
That
If
seems
they-
more doable than July 1 for me, I guess, too.
Okay, so everybody, if everybody's in agreement on that, then we can just push that out to Commissioner Bakken and
Mayor, Commissioners, I can certainly communicate with County Commissioner Bakken and offer the date of August 5th. I do believe the county would have their first meeting of the month on August 4th. They typically meet the first and third Mondays. But they would have multiple meetings before August 5th to confirm if all 5 of them would also be available.
Okay. And if not, we'll have to find a date.
Understood.
All right. That's the last item on the agenda. Is there any other business? Commissioner Risch.
Well, I just want to say that last Thursday, we had an exciting announcement. The mayor and I were at the airport, and we've got a new direct flight from here to Chicago. So I'm excited about that. We hope to draw a bunch of Chicago folks to Bismarck and the surrounding area for tourism. And, I love Chicago. It's a great place to go spend a few days. So just as mentioning it, so anybody watching on TV or whatever can consider taking that flight so we make it a successful endeavor.
Okay. Is there any other business? Hearing none, we're adjourned.